Coming to you from the Aiken Research Group today, and I wanted to talk to the retirees out there. I know there's an email going around talking about Bill 1082 and the significance of that bill to the retirees of Seneca Valley. Now, I did attend Seneca Valley, doesn't seem that long ago, some 30 years ago. And the timing of this email and my money management firm that I have is the reason I'm making this video. I use marbles as a demonstration because it's visually easier to see and understand. Now the cards here, so that you all know what these jars full of marbles represent. The bigger jar is the taxpayer. The smaller jar here is the Seneca Valley. When the taxpayer pays its property taxes, it goes to Seneca Valley. Seneca Valley then pays the teachers. The teachers then the vested teachers put some of their pay into the pension fund. This glass here are the number of retirees at Seneca Valley. This glass here is the new 403B plan that some teachers, current teachers, and new teachers may be investing in. So I want to cover what this bill and the reason that it's being suggested that you reject the bill. So let's get started. So here we have all of the taxpayers at Seneca Valley in the private sector, and they're going to pay their property taxes. They pay their property taxes to Seneca Valley. So the green marbles are the dollars paid. Now, Seneca Valley now pays its teachers. Now, for illustration purposes, we're going to use, it's not the number of marbles that the teachers get paid, but I think that you understand the difference and the analogy. So that in this case, we're going to pay the Seneca Valley teachers, 10 green marbles every pay. So whether that's 2 weeks or a month, it doesn't really matter. Now, for veteran teachers, or if we want to say vested teachers, that so much of your pay gets paid into the pension fund, the PSERS. Now, in the illustration purposes, let's say that the gross pay for a teacher is 10 green marbles, but what happens is for your pension, they take 3 green marbles and put it into the pension fund. So your take-home pay, in this case, is only 7 green marbles. Now, the current retirees, to get their pension check, so these are the current retirees, to get their pension check, the fund, so the pension fund is invested. It's invested in all different types of investments and securities to try to be diversified, to be able to get a return between 7 to 8%. And it needs to be fully vested. The money needs to be invested because they need to get that 7 to 8% on an annual basis. It doesn't necessarily sound that difficult in the beginning, but when you understand that they really can't lose a lot of principal, that getting 7 to 8% in this interest rate environment, especially if you're going to make investments in guaranteed securities, because the Fed's funds rate is basically 0, it's hard to get 7 to 8% on a yearly basis. But that's the goal. So the pension fund doesn't necessarily want to spend its principal. What the pension fund wants to do is it wants to receive dividends, and the appreciation that that investment fund has is what they want to be able to pay the current retirees. They don't want to use their principal. So now, what is occurring, right? Now, in the current email, it states that the current retirees, and in this case, we're just going to use an example of saying that an average retiree may receive around $2,000 a month. However, that $2,000 a month was 13 years ago in our example. So in the last 13 years, a retiree in his or her pension has not received a raise, not received an increase in that time period. Now, I tend to say that actually it's even worse, because my analysis is that it's not necessarily that you didn't get a raise, but because of inflation, unfortunately, the retirees actually got a cut in their purchasing power. Now, we need to use an assumption. If we want to assume that the inflation rate has been 2% over the last 13 years, that's 26%, 13 times 2. Now, that doesn't include compounding of the inflation rate, and that doesn't include that I don't believe that Americans actually care what the federal government says the inflation rate is, even though a lot of times that's in determining what your Social Security raise is, right? That really Americans care about what their own inflation rate is. What is your inflation rate in your household? It's probably more than 2%. But at any rate, we're going to use the 2% in the example. So 2% times 13, 26%, let's just say 25%. So now the retiree that received $2,000 a month 13 years ago, let's just assume they could buy 2,000 widgets with that $2,000. Products, whatever. We're just going to name them widgets. Well, it's very simple, right? 25% decrease in the purchasing power would be as if the $2,000 a month really only buys you $1,500 worth of widgets today than it would have bought you, the 2,000 would have bought 2,000 widgets 13 years ago. So in reality, the pension retirees have received a cut of at least $500 a month in their pay, $6,000 a year. And that doesn't include if your inflation rate is actually higher. If you're a retiree, you can only imagine what your expenses are for healthcare. We already know the healthcare cost for retirees is going up more than 2% a year. So right then and there, we know that it's much more than 25%. I mean, it gets so ugly you don't even want to talk about it. So, so now, what is happening with this? Let's say that. Let me take a step back. The pension fund that pays the retirees, how does that pension fund basically increase in value? The pension fund increases in value in two ways. One way is obvious, right? That the value of the securities goes up year after year. So now the value of that whole pension fund increases. The second way that the pension fund would increase in value is by contributions. Contributions from the vested, so to speak, teachers, the veteran teachers, and contributions from the new teachers. Maybe the not only the brand new teachers, but also the teachers that have been there X number of years. Now, in our example, the teachers were paid 10 green marbles, and they were required to put, in this case as an example, 3 green marbles in the pension fund. So all the teachers are contributing, so the pension fund is going up. Now, here's the real crux to the email. What Bill 1082 is really saying is that, let's take a step back again. The 3 green marbles that is coming out of a veteran teacher's pay to go into the pension, the new teachers and the teachers that have only been there for X number of years, what this bill is saying is, instead of those teachers contributing their 3 green marbles into the pension fund for it to increase in value, the bill, now, don't quote me on this, but I'm giving it as an example, that the bill now says that the current teachers are only going to contribute 1 green marble to the pension fund, and they're going to be able to take the rest and put it into a 403B plan probably, and invest it on their own. Which on the surface may not be such a bad thing for the current teachers. They may want to invest this on their own. But the real key issue is, remember, to increase the value of this pension fund to pay the current retirees, I mean, this is being stressed already. So if we're putting in less amount from the current teachers, now we have a less of an increase in the pension fund. Now, in connecting the dots, in what the email was attempting to say, is that if the stock market has increased in the last 13 years by 100%, so this pension fund has doubled in value in the last 13 years, that even with the pension fund doubling, even with the contributions from the veteran teachers of the 3 marbles in the pension fund and the newer teachers paying, putting in three of their green marbles, it still wasn't enough to give the retirees an increase in their pension. So connecting the dots says, well, geez, if the current teachers are putting in less into the pension fund, well, what's the chances of the retired teachers getting an increase in their pension? I mean, if you haven't got it in the last 13 years and the stock market went up 100% and you had current teachers contributing more, now if the current teachers contribute less, I mean, how long is it going to be before you get a raise? And we just described that in reality, when you look at it as a purchasing power, it's an actual cut. Now, the timing of this, at the Aiken Research Group, which is my investment firm, located here in Harmony, I'm introducing an inflation protection new investment account, new model. Now, what I'm using here is this jar for the investment model. I have written down here, Aiken Inflation Protection. So, it doesn't matter if a teacher is receiving a pension, if somebody's receiving Social Security, maybe Social Security disability, or even an annuity. The problem is, all of those particular payments are payments in dollars. And what's worse is, it's payment of a future dollar, right? That, let's just assume the total amount of your Social Security that's owed to you, and let's just change this for example, are all of these green marbles, right, or dollars. But what happens is you don't have the choice of taking a lump sum on your Social Security or on your pension payment or any other fixed payment normally. So that if you could take all of these marbles, you could diversify them and invest them. But see, the pension fund doesn't want to do that. And Uncle Sam doesn't want to do that either with Social Security. But what happens is your payments per month lose value, right? Unfortunately. Just like we said that originally, in our example, that the teacher was receiving $2,000 a month, inflation is up at least 25%, which really means you've lost $500 a month in purchasing power. Now, the objective at the Aiken Research Group is to provide investment accounts, and in particular, this Inflation Protection Fund, that if a retiree can actually save some of their pension, save some of their Social Security, and other monies that they may have, what we want to do is we want investments in this fund to be investments that as inflation goes up, this account goes up. See what I'm saying? While your pension fund does not go up, you're losing purchasing power. We need this to make up for it. So what types of investments do we put into this fund? Well, obviously, the best defense against inflation is gold, right? So we put gold and silver. We put oil. So we got black marbles for oil. You know, we put some foreign dividend stocks. These are from China. All of the particular types of investments that, as Uncle Sam, as we know, prints money, it dilutes the dollar in general, and inflation goes up, while your fixed payments of dollars stays the same. What we need to do is that we need to have this account rise to keep up with inflation. So specifically, in our example of the teacher who received $2,000 a month, which now really, that particular person lost $500 a month in purchasing power, we need to have an investment going forward that increases by $500 a month, right? We need that account to go up $6,000 a year for in our example, for the average retiree to break even. We're not even talking about having enough money, extra money. And we wonder why when you receive your pension checks and your Social Security checks, or the average household receives their pay, and at the end of the month we wonder what happened to it. Well, I think this demonstration actually shows it, right? Prices are going up. Prices are going up differently for different individuals, depending on if you're a retiree, depending on if you have kids and kids' activities, healthcare. So how about college? Oh my God, college education, right? I mean, what inflation rate can we provide there? We're only using 2% in this example, and 2% makes it out that it's not very good. What if we used 4% or 6%? These totals would actually be worse. This is the objective of the Aiken Research Group. This is what I'm attempting to help, not only teachers, firemen, and policemen, but it's anyone out there to sort of be able to protect themselves from Uncle Sam printing all the money, printing all the green marbles. You see, if we're in a sandbox, we're all dealing in green marbles. We want to deal in something else. We want to be owed a dividend that's a different marble than a green one, than $1. We want to be owed Chinese yuan dividends. We want to be invested in some oil companies, foreign dividends, because the more the dollar falls, the more those dividends go up. It's a hedge. That's all we're looking to do here. We're looking to provide a hedge for the American household, and in particular, retirees that are on a fixed income as it is, right? So now, the 403B accounts, of course, I would love to be able, for those of you that are looking for some guidance as to how much should be in this type of fund, this Aiken Inflation Protection Fund. We also have dividend funds. Being able to invest your 403B correctly, that's probably a concern for the younger teacher. You see, when you put it all into the pension, the teachers don't have to decide how this pension fund is invested. That's a whole committee that determines this pension fund. Now they are actually putting the responsibility on the new teachers to be able to secure their future with the 403B plan. And unfortunately, as we know, in the last, ironically, 13 years, or since 9/11, the stock market in general has dropped. It's dropped in 2001, dropped in 2008. Whenever this pension fund actually drops in value, is a huge ordeal for this pension fund. This pension fund needs to get 7 to 8% every single year in and year out. If the pension fund ends up where 1 year, let's just say it breaks even, all right, doesn't even lose money. Now what happens? Well, my goodness, it's having a hard time getting 7 to 8% in the pension fund, and now has to get 16% the next year just to break even. Very, very difficult to do because they don't want to take extra risk. Maybe they could make investments that were risky, right? And maybe they could get a higher return. But what if they don't? This is the tough job that the investment committee has for these pension funds, with interest rates being so low that they can't get the guaranteed returns to keep the principal level. Now, one of the reasons that they may be wanting the current retirees to only put one green marble in the pension fund and invest on their own is because they know the forecast, unfortunately, is for rising inflation. In a rising inflation environment, this pension fund would owe more to the retirees, right? Let's just assume for a second that instead of inflation being 2%, it actually went to 4%, 5%, 6%. Well, if the retirees feel that they're under a pressure with a 2% inflation rate, can you imagine a 6% inflation rate on the $2,000 a month that you're receiving? Wow. So the pension fund doesn't want that liability. They don't want that. They have enough problems as it is today with inflation supposedly being 2% and getting 7 to 8%. Now, let me give a little bit of analysis. We have on Wednesday, Janet Yellen is supposedly going to raise interest rates 0.25%. Now, I have made jokes before comparing Janet Yellen to Lucy because she keeps telling the market we're going to raise rates as Lucy holds the football for Charlie. When the time comes, Lucy pulls the football away, we don't raise rates. Why is Janet Yellen so reluctant to raise rates off of 0 and just 1/4 point? The Fed hasn't raised rates for 10 years. Well, isn't that sort of interesting? Retirees they haven't received a raise for 13 years. The reason Janet Yellen is so concerned about raising rates is because she knows that when she raises rates, it's not necessarily the raising of 1/4 point, it's the destination. Normal rates should be around 3 to 4%. If the market anticipates, like leaving on vacation, like you're going to Florida, the minute that Yellen raises to 1/4 point, she's actually getting in the car telling Wall Street, we're going to Florida to the normal rate of 4%. If that is in place, what Janet Yellen is going to have to do is convince investors in Wall Street that even though she's leaving and heading to Florida, she's going to take so long to get to Florida in the 4% city that investors won't sell because they're going to sell. If they believe that's the destination, stocks are worth less. Now, what does that mean? Why is that important? Well, obviously, this pension fund is really concerned because they're getting less from current teachers. They still can't pay the current retirees. And now the stock market is going to go down. They're having a hard time getting 7 to 8% right now. What happens if the stock market starts falling? Wow. If this stock market goes through another correction, like in 2008 and 2009, this pension fund is going to be pressed to the point that it's going to need more green marbles. Where are they going to get them? If the pension fund came to the veteran teacher still teaching and told them that the current 3 marbles taken from your gross pay to put into the pension fund, okay, Mr. Veteran Teacher, we need you to put in 4 green marbles. Now you're going to have less in your pay. Wow. I don't think that's going to go over very well. They're already telling the current or the new teachers that you're going to put your 3 marbles, 2 of them are going to be in the 403B, and you're going to put less in this jar. Well, let's go up the line to where the most green marbles are, right? This is the little bit of a tug of war. And you know, there's that old saying about the pebble in your shoe. You know, you never really are concerned about things, money, unless it's the pebble in your shoe. Obviously, the taxpayer, who's already pressed themselves, healthcare costs are going up, their budgets are as strained as the teachers' budgets. Now, the proposal, in my given scenario, where if this stock market starts to fall, which is why Janet Yellen is so concerned about raising rates. And when she does raise rates, if she does, what her message is going to be is that she's going to have to let Wall Street know that even though she's raised rates, she's not going to get to her destination for a long time, to the point you don't even need to worry about it, because she doesn't want anybody selling stocks, because she knows that we don't need more pressure on paying the retirees and the pensions. Okay, I think, hopefully, this is a good description, a good visualization as to what the email and what this bill is all about. Ultimately, when you vote to reject this bill, you're still wanting the current and new teachers to be putting in their 3 marbles in the pension jar and not putting 1 marble in and 2 marbles in their 403B plan. You need, as the retirees, you need as many marbles in this pension plan as possible to be able to not only pay your $2,000 a month, but to be able to, at some point, to give you a raise. If that's not possible, we can do an analysis of exactly how much to put in this inflation protection account and be able to help teachers that don't really know what to do, right? What to invest in their 403B. Well, I think that's all for now. If you have any questions, see my website, aikenresearch.com, and give me a call and let me know, and we'll be able to organize all of this for you. And hopefully, this has been a pretty good visualization and description as to what's going on in Western Pennsylvania. Thanks. Have a great day.